How did the Georgia Bulldogs beat Notre Dame? It's a question that I think has answers to it, but there's been some moving pieces since they have last played a game that make things a little bit more difficult. We'll take a look at the keys to the game for Georgia, the players that you need to watch, including one player that has now become way more important than he was earlier in the season, and how this team finds a way to continue their national championship hopes. Georgia has done a really good job of various different things this year, and I think that they've adapted to some adversity, especially early in the season. The Alabama loss obviously wasn't great, and you've seen at times this offense has struggled with various different things, but this is still a really good team and a team that has the ability to make it to a national championship game appearance, to win a national championship, but it's just a little bit more difficult than it was before. Now, when you look at what they've done this year, there have been some impressive wins, but you've also seen this team exposed a little bit. The Alabama game exposed some of that. The Ole Miss loss was very disappointing. And now you're going into a game against a Notre Dame team that is playing with a ton of confidence, arguably the most confident team in this playoff right now. And you're also going to do it with a backup quarterback. So we'll dive more into that in a little bit. But the fact that Georgia is still 1.5 point favorite as I'm recording this says a lot about how talented this team is. Just because you lose your quarterback doesn't mean that you're no longer in the running or have a chance. This is still very much a national championship type team, and it's going to be fun to see how they compete against Notre Dame. Notre Dame has done a really good job of playing well down the stretch. Again, this is one of the most confident teams in the playoff right now, and they are playing very confidently and with a lot of passion. And it's really difficult to play against Notre Dame, but Georgia definitely has the talent to do that. There is also some questions about Notre Dame that Georgia could potentially expose. We'll see what happens there, but one of the keys is going to be stopping the run. That much is pretty obvious. If you're watching Notre Dame football, you know that you have to stop the run. Jeremiah Love has been absolutely incredible so far in the last handful of games, all year, but in the last handful of games, he's been a monster. He has been really tough to stop, and Notre Dame did a really good job against Indiana running the football. Averaged 5.5 yards per carry, 193 total yards on the ground, and Jeremiah Love had over 100 yards. Riley Leonard contributes to that as well. That is something that Georgia must stop. And if there's a team that's equipped to stop the run, it's the Georgia Bulldogs. That defensive line is a nightmare when they're playing at their peak. The linebackers are really good. So if there's a group that can stop the run of Notre Dame, it's the Georgia Bulldogs. The other thing is going to be getting Gunnar Stockton in rhythm. Losing Carson Beck was always going to hurt. No matter, even in the games that he struggled, still having him in the game gives you the potential to make some big time throws. And you also saw in the SEC championship game kind of the drop off to Gunnar Stockton. That being said, Gunnar Stockton is still a talented quarterback that will need to play a role if Georgia wants to win a national championship. So getting him in rhythm, building his confidence early is going to be a big thing, because if you build his confidence, you don't necessarily have to worry about him as much. Obviously, there may be still be some concerns, but he is someone that can be a contributing factor. He will be the X factor for this offense. The wide receivers will have to get open. Drops cannot be a factor in this if they're going to want to move the ball efficiently. And Gunnar Stockton needs to know that he can rely on the tight ends, the wide receivers, and the rushing attack for him to build that confidence, but you have to get him involved early. I think if you get him involved early, that leads to good things in not only this game, but in the long term as well. Ball security is another thing. Notre Dame is phenomenal at taking the ball away. 29 turnovers gained, which is tied for first in college football. Notre Dame is very good at taking the football away. Georgia is pretty average at taking care of the football. They are tied for, or they're 71st in turnovers lost. So taking care of the football is a quick way to ensure that you're in this game. Giving the ball away is the quickest way to get this game in Notre Dame's favor. That is not going to go well if you are struggling to take care of the football, if you cannot keep the football in your hands and you give Notre Dame more opportunities to score. A team that is playing with a ton of confidence, turnovers are only going to build that confidence and make your task that much more difficult. The players to watch for Georgia, it's obviously going to start with Gunnar Stockton. We talked about him. What he's capable of doing in this game is probably going to dictate the outcome. If he plays with confidence, he's making throws, the offense is moving the ball efficiently, you feel like you're in pretty good hands with where this game is going to go. If he can be a factor, if he can be efficient, you feel confident about Georgia's chances in this game. But also some of that stems from the rest of the offense too. This year we've seen the rushing attack have its highs and lows. Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne have shown flashes of their potential, but we have not seen that consistently. If there's a time to show up and bring that consistent run game, the college football playoff is a great time to do that. Nate Frazier has been really fun to watch as of late, and we're going to see him for quite a while now, which is just, the spoils of the rich. Georgia has so much talent. You're bound to find plenty of depth with the way that they recruit. And then the wide receivers. Arian Smith is a guy that I want to focus on because that is someone who can take the top off the defense. He is a game changer with his speed, but he needs to find a way to drop less passes. In the short to intermediate game, I don't know if he's hearing footsteps or what it is, but the amount of times that he's dropped wide open passes or passes that could lead to big gains or even touchdowns is going to hurt Georgia if he can't get that fixed. Maybe Dominic Levet is going to have to be that guy, but someone else might have to step up. But Arian Smith is by far the biggest game changer that Georgia has on their offense. The defense is going to have their hands full too. Yes, Notre Dame has things that they need to work on offensively, but their rushing attack is no joke. And that's where guys like Jalen Walker, Chaz Chambliss, you look at Michael Williams, Nazir Stackhouse. There are a number of players in the front seven, whatever Georgia goes with for a look. The defensive line and linebackers are going to have to play a big role. If they take away Notre Dame's rushing attack, that puts pressure on them to throw the football. And yes, Riley Leonard is a decent quarterback when it comes to throwing the ball, but he is not a gunslinger that is going to throw it all over the field. And Georgia has the secondary that has talent, and it's going to give them a great opportunity to showcase what they can do. Malachi Starks has an opportunity to pick off some passes. And again, when you have a quarterback that's trying to build confidence, getting the ball to him could play a big role in getting this team on track to where they want to go. And it's going to be tough, but I think that Georgia has the personnel to make that happen. Defensively, you feel pretty solid about what they can do against Notre Dame, and we'll see what that game plan looks like when they start things out. How do they put heavier boxes to take away the run? How do they force Riley Leonard to beat them with his arm? Those are going to be big questions. Now, if you're Georgia paying attention to who do you need to watch for Notre Dame, everything is going to revolve around Jeremiah Love. You saw what he did against Indiana. You've seen what he's done late in the season. This is a guy with incredible athleticism who is shining on the brightest stages. He is someone that is going to have a major impact on this game. And it's going to be, he's either going to torch Georgia because Notre Dame has figured out ways to get him in the open field, or Georgia's going to find ways to stifle him. And right now, you feel pretty good about what Georgia can do. It's just a matter of execution. If they're able to take away the run, then you turn your attention to Riley Leonard. What is he capable of doing in terms of taking the top off the defense? Is he able to spread out the Georgia defense and with his arm, or is it going to be a long night for this Notre Dame team? We've seen in the past that Notre Dame has struggled running the football in playoff situations, but this feels like it's a different team playing with a different kind of confidence, and this is not the same opponent that they faced before. So the easiest way to do that, take away the run, and then really force Riley Leonard to be fundamentally sound with his reads, with where he's going with the football. You saw Jordan Faison take over as a potential big-time weapon. We've seen that in a Mike Denbrock offense before, and that's going to be fun to watch. Those two units go back and forth. Notre Dame's defense is going to be a problem as well. This is a group of people that they took away what Indiana wanted to do really well, which is run the football. And Georgia still wants to run the football, and they're really going to want to do it with Gunnar Stockton. If Gunnar Stockton can create some confidence, then you feel pretty good about the balance of the offense. But if not, the run game has to get going. Jack Kaiser is a 6-year player that's a veteran who has a ton of experience. Howard Cross came back for the first time in what seemed like a long, long time. He is a problem as well. And then on the back end, Gunnar Stockton has to be aware of where Xavier Watts is at all times. Xavier Watts is a nightmare to throw against deep downfield, and if you're not careful, he's going to pick the ball off. We saw him do that against Indiana. We've seen him do it all year this year, all year last year. This is an absolute stud on the back end of the Notre Dame defense, and turning the ball over, which we talked about in the keys of the game, Notre Dame's very good at that. If you turn the ball over, Georgia's going to be in for a long night, but if they take care of the ball and do what they're capable of doing, winning this game shouldn't be a problem.